you're in a situation where you can spend 5 to 10 hours a week as the show host, getting good at this new thing, and that will set you up for success. That's a good time to start a show, generally speaking. Welcome to this video about when the right time is to start a podcast or a YouTube show. This is so important to understand if you're a personal brand and you want to become a show host. And if you already have a show, you'll still learn something new in this video, I hope, because you've been through it and now you'll have new perspective. So this is a really important question to ask yourself if you're considering launching a podcast or a YouTube show or both, if you're a personal brand, because guess what? You got to be the show host. And that means you need to make time for a pretty big project in your life. What I've noticed is with a lot of our clients at Worthful Media, who are personal brands in the health and wellness, self-development, and entrepreneurship spaces, they can have an amazing idea for a show and be all fired up and excited to get going, and then realize, oh, I need to make time to actually be a show host. And so sometimes the first conversation we have with a client postpones the start of production for a few months or longer until that person is ready to actually be a show host, because it takes time and it takes energy and effort and thought. If you're going to go to the effort of making a show, make it great and put aside the time and put in the effort and learn how to be a good show host, right? Like that's what we do here. We make media that's worth watching, worth listening to, that enhances the self-worth of our show hosts. And so I'm going to guide you through some really basic but super helpful questions that we go through with prospective clients about when is the right time to actually start this podcast, because the best idea for a show can come at the wrong time, and a really good show will only take off if it's the right time and the right concept and that the show host is ready, right? Now, you may already be counting yourself out and be like, I'm going to turn off this video. I'm not ready to be a show host. I'm too busy. But I'm going to give you some things to think through. So let's just get really basic at the beginning. How much time is it going to take for you as a show host to do a good job per week? Let's say you're a brand new show host, you're launching a show, you're a personal brand, you're the show host. How much time should you plan on putting aside every week at the beginning of your show? I typically tell show hosts, plan on 5 to 10 hours a week for the first 2 to 4 months. And that's being conservative. Some people can pick it up a lot quicker and sort of already have systems and teammates working to help them out. But 5 to 10 hours a week is a good baseline. What might you be doing in those 5 to 10 hours a week? You'll need to be researching guests or making episode content outlines, right? We help our clients do this, but you still got to do it. You're the show host. You need to make sure that these episode outlines or researching guests and figuring out what you want to talk to them about is actually something you're excited about. So that is a legitimate 5 to 10 hour a week project. You need to be thinking through your content ideas, your season outline, what the episodes are. Sometimes you're doing guest research. Sometimes you're just making up really solid outlines of your own content if you have maybe a solo show or a co-hosted show. And you don't want to skimp on that. Unless you're a special unicorn, and you probably know if you already are, you want to take some time to prep, especially for your first season of your show or your first, 20 to 30 episodes. You really want to take the time to prep for those because it's a lot of new. And if you kind of wing it, it's a lot of energy and time and money to put into something you just winged when you could have made it a lot better by prepping. So 5 to 10 hours a week could be with just episode prep. Also learning how to use your gear. If you're coming into a studio, obviously we handle it for you. But if you're going to be recording at home, which a lot of our guests do, there's a little bit of a technical learning curve. So you're learning how to use your microphone and how to troubleshoot it and what the right levels should be and how to monitor yourself and how to check your feedback. You're also figuring out how to use a remote recording platform like Riverside or Squadcast or Zencaster. You're learning what to do with your guest if you're doing a guest show, how to troubleshoot with them and how to make sure you understand the technology enough to help them out if they have a question. So that is a bit of a learning curve that once you figured out, you should be good to go, but it's going to take some time. Also, I think 5 to 10 hours a week is a smart budget of time at the beginning for the first few months, because you're going to start promoting your show. You're going to start to do kind of behind the scenes little videos for your social media or for your email list or wherever you hang out. You're going to start telling friends. You're going to be reaching out to people you want to feature on the show, or maybe you're reaching out to your audience and asking them for ideas about what they want to hear you talk about on your new podcast. And that takes time. You're kind of nurturing the beginnings of an audience. You're promoting the show. You're telling people about what's coming. You're doing some, early, maybe incentives or getting people excited. You're doing giveaways. You're posting different kinds of content because you're making something new. So some people really love to do that and they spend a ton of time on marketing and promotion, and some don't do very much. But it's worth it to put some time in for the first several months so that you are actually letting people know, hey, I've got a show and I want you to listen, and here's why. Okay, the third thing that I think can take a lot of time for the show host at the beginning is you may not love your first couple takes or your first few. There is a learning curve to you kind of getting used to the sound of your own voice, your look on camera, how you talk, whether you're doing solo content or, interviewing somebody. You are going to probably have some opinions about how you actually sound and look. And so you might need to do multiple takes, and you might need to have some grace with yourself, and you might need to try a few different things before you land on a format or a tone of voice or a way of speaking that you really like. And that's like part of the learning curve. You're in great company, but it's going to take some time. So that's the first thing we cover with prospective show hosts. We're like, how much time do you have available? Can you dedicate an hour a day during the work week to being a show host? Can you dedicate a couple hours a day? And if someone's like completely maxed out, I literally don't have a free, 20 minutes in my workday right now, it's probably a sign that it might not be the best time to launch a show unless you strategically want to batch record, book a couple days on your calendar, get it done all at once, come to a studio. We have clients who just come into the studio and we batch record the whole season all at once. So that's a consideration you're going to make. First off, do you have time to be a show host? And 5 to 10 hours a week is like a good ballpark. There's ways to kind of get around that depending on how much team support you have and how much you hire an agency to do for you. But that would be my first recommendation. And then secondly, when is a good time to start a podcast? Ideally speaking, if you have something big coming out, let's say a year to 2 to 3 years down the road, you're maybe going to write a book, you're going to launch a course, you want to do live events. We've talked about this in other episodes. A good time to start a show is as far in advance as you possibly can. At least a year before a book would be ideal. Same thing would go for the other things I mentioned. But it takes time for people to find out you have a show. And so it's really worth it to start a media platform that you own, that you're putting really high quality content out on, that's long form, a good amount of time before you need people to be taking action on what you're sharing on that show. So those are my 2 tips. There's so many other things we can go through and that we do go through with our clients about when the right time is to start a show. But ideally, you're starting a show 1 to 2 to 3 years before you're going to do something big, like a transition in your business or offering a new kind of service or coming out with a book. And you're in a situation where you can spend 5 to 10 hours a week as the show host getting good at this new thing. And that will set you up for success. That's a good time to start a show, generally speaking. Okay, if you have questions about this, leave a comment in the video. We can do more, but I hope this was helpful, whether you're a current show host or a brand new one, and we'll see you in the next video.